This is episode number 195 of the Middle Country Public Library podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Sal DiVincenzo, joined as usual by my fabulous colleagues, Sarah Fade.
Hello.
And Nicole Rambo.
Hello.
How are you ladies doing?
Good.
November. It's November. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
Sal, have you ever grown a mustache?
No, why? Do you think I should?
For Movember.
Oh, for Movember?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
Mustache-vember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should do it. Because I would love to see you
In a mustache?
in a mustache.
Have you ever
could-
seen me in my full beard? Have you ever seen any
No.
pictures of me in the full beard?
I've never seen you with any facial hair.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I forgot to shave this morning, so I got a little bit coming in now.
Yeah, no, I see some stubble. I feel like you would grow it real fast.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
it
so
doesn't. It doesn't come in very well though. It comes in different colors, and
Oh.
it's like red.
a
and-
rainbow style.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'll have
Red?
Yeah, red.
When was the last time you grew a mustache? Because
A long time ago.
I was like, maybe not red so much.
19. Yeah, nice. Ageism. No, 1995.
Maybe you'll
96?
look regal. Like, you know who has a great mustache is Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, does he have a mustache?
That like, he looks. Yeah, it's. You should just
I'll make a note of it.
internet search that.
Okay. So perhaps soon you shall see me with
should.
a mustache for Movember. Is that what it's
November.
called?
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Alright.
and then you could post it on this episode's.
Yeah,
You know.
we'll put it. Yeah, we'll put it in the show
Sure.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, sure. I'll try it. Why not? Okay.
you should.
So it is November, and before we get into our show today, a little bit of housekeeping. Sarah, you have some housekeeping for us, right? We have something coming up.
Yes. So it was on hiatus because of COVID.
Sure.
Put everything on hiatus. But I'm very happy to announce that the pet fair, the Scales and Tails Pet Education and Adoption Fair, is back on.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have over 10 nonprofit groups coming into the library in Centereach on November 13th, Saturday.
Okay.
It's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we'll have a rabbit rescue group.
Nice.
We'll have other adoption groups. We'll have the bird group that comes
Oh,
in all the
cool.
time. People love them. Jungle Bob will be there
Oh.
again.
Friend of the show. Right?
Yeah, and I think there'll be some adoptable cats, kittens, dogs, puppies. I know. And the other groups that will have information on how to volunteer, which is still very important. So if you're looking for volunteer, opportunities,
Right.
come on down and maybe.
I would say the age is usually 16 to start volunteering?
Some of them are younger because
Oh,
I
yeah?
know the adoption center is younger than that.
Okay.
But some places might need you to have a parent if you're younger.
Oh, okay.
So say you're like 12 and you're interested.
Yeah.
I think you still can, but you'll have to have a parent
Right.
with you just for,
Right.
supervision and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I mean, that's a great. But if you're a parent and you love wildlife and animals too, it's a great bonding.
Right. Oh,
experience, too,
definitely.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So come on down, even if you don't want to adopt, but you love animals. Unfortunately, though, patrons cannot bring their pets.
All right.
Only
That makes
rescue
sense.
groups can
Yeah.
have
Okay, yeah.
animals.
You
But
want- yeah.
it's on the children's side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So come on
Fair.
down.
It's a very
All
cute
right.
day.
Or don't you usually, Nicole, dress up like a duck?
Okay, it was a chicken. And it wasn't for the pet fair.
No, it was just a Friday.
Yes.
It was just payday.
Yeah.
Nicole was excited.
Just enjoying it. Money in my pocket, my chicken outfit on. Okay. Great. So we'll put that in the show notes for folks to come down. I have a treat for you ladies this week.
Ooh.
I actually did a focus segment. It's been a long time since I did one.
Yeah.
And it's actually a very good focus segment because I was able to interview my friend Douglas A. Bass, who wrote a book.
Oh,
He
okay.
wrote a book, and it's out there. Yeah, it's in our
It's out
collection.
there.
That's
yes.
awesome.
It's an awesome book. So let's listen to that and see what it's all about.
Great.
So we have a special focus segment for you this week. Very happy to have my very good friend, Douglas A. Bass here. He has written a book, Ebenezer, The True Life Story of Ebenezer Scrooge. Doug, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hi, Sal. Thanks for having me.
Doug grew up here. He is a middle country native, I guess we can call it here. Where'd you go? Newfield High School?
I did go to Newfield High School.
Great, fantastic. Did you come down to the library? Did you visit us here at Middle Country?
I was there very often. I was there before it was the Nautilus.
There you go. That's right.
Had a lot of time there, yeah.
Now, before we get into your amazing book, which I've read a couple times and I love it, and we're going to put it in the show notes where our patrons can actually take the book out here from our collection. I just want to go over some background for you. Now, writing has been something that you've done for many years. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Writing's been something I've done forever. I've been creative writing for as long as I've been able to hold a pencil. I actually don't remember a time that I wasn't scribbling stories down.
Now, did you go to school to be a writer? I mean, you went to SUNY Geneseo upstate.
I didn't. I went. My degree at Geneseo was in history, and I ended up pursuing a career in the law originally, and my writing I decided to keep as my hobby.
So you went upstate, and then you came back to Long Island, and then you decided to get your law degree. Is this right?
Yeah. I went up. I did my 4 years in Geneseo, New York, which up in the Finger Lakes region of New York State. Then I came down. I did my law school at Hofstra in Nassau, and I started that career back in the year 2000.
Wow. So you had been doing that for a very long time. Now, you are not a lawyer anymore. In fact, what is your Twitter handle?
That is, in fact, my Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is @LawyerNoMore.
Lawyer No More.
I consider myself a refugee from the legal profession.
And you're teaching now.
Yes, I am on the brink of getting my master's and my certification. I'm about 7 weeks away from it as we speak.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Now, during all this time, your different careers and whatnot, as you said, writing has been a big part of your life. Now, this book, Ebenezer, The True Life Story of Ebenezer Scrooge, came out a few years ago, and it tells the story of Scrooge from a completely different angle, and not the one that we are familiar with by Charles Dickens. What made you decide to write a book about Ebenezer Scrooge?
Well, one of my great desires throughout my whole entire life, my greatest bucket list item, you could call it, has been to write and publish a book. I'd always wanted to do that. And I've always had an affinity for A Christmas Carol. My birthday happens to be Christmas Eve. That might have something to do with it. I don't know.
Yes, perhaps.
But I've always loved the story. I've seen many versions of it, as I'm sure most people have, as far as movies. And I was introduced to it, I think, first by the Muppets. And I have read the novella quite a few times. I really liked it. It spoke to me. It's a story of hope. It is an enduring story. It's one where generation after generation that learns about it, loves it, and wants to connect with it. I'd always been looking for a unique story, too. I didn't want to write the same old thing or just a variation on the same old thing. Luckily, when I got interested in this project, I realized that no one had actually ever looked at Ebenezer Scrooge as a character from beginning to end. One day, back in 2008, actually, not one day, actually, I believe it was probably Christmas Eve or right around then, I was watching my favorite version of the movie, which is the 1951 Alastair Sim version.
Nice.
Yeah, and something that day, something struck my brain. I don't know, something about it. I got this odd feeling that something's wrong with this story. Something's not quite right. I don't know. And it started nagging at me. And then it occurred to me, that, this is a guy who we're told hates everyone, is no use for anyone. Yet he's shown these scenes of his life, and I could not make heads or tails of why those scenes were going to change this man and turn his whole life around. It seemed like, what they saw in his past, when he's getting abandoned at school as a kid, and dumped by his fiance, and losing his sister, these things. It didn't seem like that was going to make a man want to be a better man.
Right.
In fact,
Right.
it just seems to me that the only thing that really turned him around in the end was he's afraid because he sees his own name on a gravestone. Guess what? You join a ghost of the future. I don't care who you are. We're all eventually going to see that gravestone. So suddenly I was thinking to myself, there's more to this story. What really happened? What made this man who he was? And just right from there, I just started scribbling notes. And I just kept doing it. And I couldn't quite get a coherent story together. I couldn't quite figure out how it should be told. And so I'd pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down. And actually over a couple of years, or a few years, it happened. Every time a new idea would hit me, I'd just go right back to my notes and I'd plug it in. And finally, in 2016, so 8 years later, I finally had, something about it. Just it's time. And I sat down and I did some research for several months. I researched the time period because I wanted this to be as historically accurate as it could be, because I wanted him to be real. I wanted him to be interacting with real history and having real history interact with him, just like we all do, having real things influence him. I determined how old I thought he was in 1843 when A Christmas Carol takes place. And I just went backwards from there to see when he was born and to research that whole time period of England and around the world for his lifespan. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I have to say, reading the book, first of all, it's very cinematic. Your book, it's very cinematic. Every time I read it, I can see the movie in my head, and I think that's really an amazing feat that you've done here. Because I feel like the next interview we're going to do is after you sell the rights to a big movie studio. Anyway,
well, that would be great. Thank you, Sal. Sal has heard, you've all heard it here. Sal is going to get this book sold, the rights, major movie studio.
As the reader, I greatly appreciate the fact that you did that historical research on here, because this book, the language that you use here, the Dickensian way that this book is presented is just remarkable. And I really do love how it really pulls you in. Like before we got on the air, I just wanted to start reading a random chapter, and I realized I was 3 chapters in at that point. Just keep going, because it's just really, the story is so interesting and it really pulls you in, and the characters are really fantastic. And it really is a great thing that you've done here to bring this character to life. And it really, this is a living, breathing character in this book.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that more than you can imagine. And that was my goal. I mean, that's why it's called The True Life Story of Ebenezer Scrooge. Because my goal is that if I told the story correctly and I got to you the way it sounds like I got to you, Sal, that, I want you to forget that this is a fictional character, and I want you to accept him as a real person. Really, the way I want this book to be understood is sort of like the source material that Charles Dickens used way back when. This is the true story.
Yes.
And A Christmas Carol is what he used. That's the derivative one, where he fictionalized it for his purposes.
Yes. And we don't want to give anything away, but there is something towards the end of this book that kind of connects this all together.
Yeah, we're not giving anything away, though. Yeah, no, I got to say, I mean, it was an amazing experience for me. I had never in my life written a full novel, published or otherwise. Every day when I was finished writing, I would have my panic attack that the next day the words wouldn't be there and the story wouldn't be there anymore. And every morning I woke up, and thank goodness another chapter was there waiting for me.
That's amazing.
So, I felt like I was just listening to the characters and watching it myself. I really often felt like I was just fortunate enough to be the first one to read it, and I'm just transcribing it. I almost felt like it was passing through me. It wasn't, anything that I was inventing. It was just there.
Yes. Well, you can definitely hear the passion that you had for these characters and for the story while reading this book. Again, we're talking with Douglas A. Bass, is author of Ebenezer, the true life story of Ebenezer Scrooge. Doug, I wanted to ask you, we do have some listeners who are very interested in becoming writers someday. Now, I don't know how far along they are. Do you have any advice for folks? I mean, obviously, you're saying this took you years to get to the point, 8, 9 years to get to the point from conception to actually being able to purchase this on Amazon.com or come down here to the library and take it off the shelf. Do you have any advice for those fledgling writers out there who might have an idea and want to put it to paper?
I suppose the only advice, a few things of advice I would give to anyone is if you want to do it, then do it. I can tell you that the experience of being a writer often is there's just a drive inside you, and you have stories that need to come out. So let them out. I would say don't be critical of yourself. Don't worry if you think it's good enough or bad enough or this or that, because there's really no such thing. There's only preference anyway. Everybody likes their own thing. Even if you don't like something you've written, that doesn't mean someone else won't love it. So take that out of it altogether. And also recognize that once you put it out in the world, it's not really yours anymore anyway. It's everyone's. That's one thing. And I suppose on the actual writing portion of it itself, to me, I think the absolute most important thing is you've got to capture your readers' emotions. You must connect with them. Writing is such a magical thing to me. It actually, I read something that Stephen King once wrote. He wrote it in his book on writing, where a writer is a time traveler. I wrote this book. I published it in 2017. And my thoughts and my ideas are being communicated to all the people that are going to read this book intentionally. That is going to span time and space before that conversation gets picked up. Some people will pick it up early in time and space, like the people that bought it in 2017 and who were local to where I live. And some people are going to be much further away. I have sold this book in England, in Canada. I believe I think now I have a sale in Australia. And years later, if you want to communicate, and that's all it is you're just communicating. It's a personal connection. And that always, at its very core, that's your heart. That's your soul. That's what you have to put yourself out there and connect. You're making a connection. Don't worry about form and technicalities and any of those things. If you can reach somebody's heart, I mean, what else is there? I mean, that's how we make our friendships. That's how we find the people that we love. That's how we stick with whomever we're going to stick with for the rest of our lives. No different.
That's really great advice. Really great advice. Now, you had mentioned England. I know that you've been on other podcasts in the UK before. We will forgive you that for not coming here first. It's really starting. It's amazing how this is really starting to pick up, this book, and I think you wanted to mention, and I'm very excited about this, that we're going to be hearing this book soon. Is that right? There's an audiobook version coming out?
Yeah, absolutely. I have been fortunate recently. I was approached by an amazing voice actor. His name is Benjamin Fife, and he is the acting side of that Dickensian, like he has that love for that. So we've been collaborating, and we are now in production for the audiobook. Our intention is to have this ready on Amazon and Audible by Black Friday this year.
That's coming up.
Yeah, it's right around the corner, and he's doing an amazing job. He really is. He's capturing these characters. It's been such an interesting experience for me to listen to him and how he's interpreted it and how he's brought these characters to life with his professional training and his, the way he does things. Because up until when I listen to what he's done and I communicate with him so we can iron everything out together, I had never heard anyone except for myself read this book aloud. I've done readings before, and I read this book to my wife. Actually, that's actually how I edited it. It was a great experience. Another layer to how much I love this book is that she was my primary editor. As I'd write chapters, we would spend evenings together after the kids went to bed with a hot beverage. And rather than have her read it and then talk to me, what I would do is I would read it to her. So I could watch her in real time reacting and seeing what was landing and what wasn't, and seeing what she was reacting to, even if it were things that I wasn't expecting. And then we would discuss it, and I would make some modifications, and she would give advice. And my wife has no compunction about being very blunt with me. Things weren't working. The truth of the matter is that she was right 95% of the time. I hope she's not listening to this podcast. But she was right an awful lot. Thank goodness she was. That's why I could make my little tweaks and make it so that I had my first audience right there.
Excellent. So. It's almost your own version of Ebenezer and Belle sitting in front of the fire.
That's exactly right.
Enjoying each other.
That's right. Exactly right. That's right. She is my Belle. So anyway, so the audiobook will be, again, our goal is Black Friday. If it doesn't make it, it'll be shortly thereafter. It'll definitely be around for this holiday season.
I was going to say, this is a great book. This is a great book now. Patrons, listeners, you're out there. This is it. Reserve your copy here at the library because it's a great time of year to read this book.
And again, I also want to make it clear, too, and it doesn't matter how many times I say this, but I'm going to say it again now anyway. It's not just a Christmas story. That is what A Christmas Carol is. That's the portion of the story that Dickens focused on. But I wanted this to be his whole life. So this story actually begins on the day he's born, and it takes us all the way through his entire life, right up until even a little bit after he's gone. Dickens set a few signposts. He got a few things wrong, I have to admit. I'm sorry to tell everyone. He had a few details that weren't quite correct, including what really happened when Ebenezer Scrooge met those spirits. That is, if you want to know the real story of what really happened, well, there's a book and soon an audio book to fill you in on it.
Yes, because you do have there are chapters here where we see your angle, this angle of those spirits visiting him.
Yeah, and again, everything in the beginning is giving us how we get to the character that we meet at the beginning of Dickens' pages. He's basically the same person that we meet with Dickens, and so it's broken into 3 parts. And in the first part, we get to see how he gets to who he was on that day that Dickens introduces us to him. And the second part takes us on the journey with him to the spirits, as you can see what really would turn this man around. What did turn him around? Let's face it. It wasn't what Dickens said. It was, I think, a little bit more magical. And then in the end, the last part, although Dickens tells us that he lives a good life afterwards, now you get to see what that life looks like. And again, it is him interacting with history and history interacting with him. My hope is that, anytime someone sees a name or a place or an event, if they feel compelled to look it up, they're going to find that they are now placed right in history. I also am hoping that if I did my job right, they will not be able to distinguish between the parts where it was real and where I took a little bit of poetic license myself to add to it. Yeah, it's a whole journey.
It is. It is absolutely a journey.
His life. It's his whole life. It's not just, like I say. So it's not just a Christmas story. It is appropriate for all times of the year because it's a whole life. And if you like English history in particular, this was the golden age of England. I got to be perfectly honest with you. I think that I was very lucky. It was almost like Providence itself was smiling on me. Everything lined up just right. Everything. I didn't plan a lot of things that fell into my lap just because it was just right.
Well, it is a page turner indeed. I will tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed this book both times I read it. I gave it to my mom to read. Everybody who reads it loves this book. My wife read it; she loved it, and I really think folks will really dig this book. It's Ebenezer: The True Life Story of Ebenezer Scrooge by Douglas A. Bass. It's available on Amazon. You can get the download as an ebook, soon to be an audiobook. And of course, it is here in our collection at the Middle Country Public Library for our patrons to take out if they wish. Doug, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been a great pleasure. And hopefully the next time we have you on, it's because you're going to be talking about Michael Fassbender being cast in your film.
Well, that would be fantastic. Since I know you have his phone number, I know you'll be making that call for me.
I shall, yes. That'll be happening shortly. All right. Thanks so much, Doug.
Thanks a lot, Sal. I appreciate it.
Okay, and we are back. So that sounds pretty cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gonna read the book?
Yes.
I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. I enjoyed it very, very much.
Okay, Sal, but why did you pick Michael Fassbender?
Oh, so that's the kind of not in joke, but like the kind of behind the scenes stories. Because after I read this book, I thought that one of the characters, Fred specifically, should be played by Michael Fassbender. When you read the book, you'll get it.
Okay,
It's very cinematic, as I mentioned in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully it'll be made into a movie.
Yes.
And Mr. Fassbender is listening to our pod and be like, I want him.
Yes.
And then the author can remember our pod and invite us on set.
There you go.
Let's
Very good,
manifest
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you want to listen to older episodes or read our show notes, you can visit our website. That's www.mcplpodcast.com. And also, if you're listening on YouTube, what should we do? We should smash that like button. You smash
That's
it.
right. Smash the like button. Subscribe
And
if you
subscribe.
haven't. Yeah.
And what else should we do now?
You can share.
You can share. That's right. Cool. You can share the episode
if you want.
If you want.
It's
Oh,
enthusiastic.
I just
Because you don't share. You share it, but it's not like a share. You know.
Okay. Yes. Sure.
It's a
Semantics. Okay.
But it's not like a share.
It's not a share.
It's not like a retweet
No, it's not like a retweet.
or like.
It's
yeah.
a share.
It's a share. Yeah.
It's like, here, watch this.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So here, watch
Here,
this.
watch this. You could do it. Here, watch this.
Do it here, watch this. Send this
Send
episode.
the link to someone. Go here, watch this.
Exactly. Yes.
And they'll be like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
No, you're listening.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much for listening. For Sarah Fade and Nicole Rambo, I'm Sal DiVincenzo. We'll see you on the next show.